Welcome to the Slice podcast, where you're going to learn about all different entrepreneurs from all around the world, learn about their struggles, learn about their triumphs, their journey through one of the most challenging, but I'd say one of the most fulfilling journeys anyone can take in this world. And today I have on Sarah Adair. Is that how you pronounce that?
That is. Good job.
Perfect. Yeah, as somebody whose last name people butcher all the time, I understand completely. So she's the owner of Social Bliss Events and a really exciting business, a lot of things going on there. So Sarah, got to ask, how are you on this Monday morning?
I am doing great. I actually love Monday mornings. So many people have dread for Monday, but I actually really like it. So Mondays we do team meetings. And so I love getting together with the team, checking to see how their weekend was, and then really diving into the week. And so, yeah, I'm pumped and ready for a great day. So thanks for having me on, John. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I've got to ask, how many cups of coffee did it take for you to answer that way? Because you're excited.
I literally, look, it's sitting right here. I've had 2 sips of my coffee this morning. Like
two sips?
Yeah, 2 sips. I tell people I am filled with joy like this 99% of the time. And so this is just me, no caffeine, just good amount of sleep and ready to go. So
hey, there you go. Good sleep and passion. That should get you through any day, especially Mondays. Well, all right, we're going to dive right into this. First off, can you give us a quick slice of who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your business?
Yeah. So Social Bliss Events, we are a luxury event planning company, and we really service the needs for busy professionals. So those people, as we always say, they have full-time jobs. And so they step into this role of either planning a wedding or planning a high school reunion or planning a baby shower. And they don't need another full-time job planning another event. So that is really our target market. But we do everything. We have a very diverse portfolio. So everything, as you kind of heard me mention, from weddings to itinerary planning to corporate events and baby showers and everything in between. So we've been doing this since 2013. So we've surpassed the decade mark, which in my book was like a huge accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like very settled. I'm like, we've been doing this a decade. We're good to go. So, yeah. And so we have a wonderful team who help support us. And yeah, we absolutely love what we do. We are very passionate about event planning. I also come from a corporate background. So I always tell our clients, like, we are very process oriented. And so that is something I think that also kind of sets us apart, because we are not just a wonderful creative business, but we have the business background as well to help support it, to make sure that every event runs very smoothly.
Absolutely. And so you said back in 2013. So how did it all start? What got you into this space, and what really happened? Was there a moment where you said, hey, you know what, I'm going to go all in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in 2013, I was working my corporate job, and in corporate America, they say, find a problem and fall in love with it. And so I did that for myself. And so I was so intrigued why Nashville had become the it city. So in about 2012 to 2010, it kind of started. And by 2012, we had been named the it city. And so I was so intrigued with why all of these people were flooding to the city. So I went to school here in Nashville at Vanderbilt and graduated. So I'd already had about 8 years of the city living underneath my belt. And so I was so intrigued, like, who's telling these people where to go, what to do? Obviously, you can Google your way, Yelp your way through the city, but that personalized touch people didn't have. So in 2013, I actually started my business in Bachelorette parties, and people told me, have fun with your hobby. No one's going to pay you to plan their Bachelorette party. Because at that time, Bachelorette parties were one nights, right? So people were just staying in their cities. Well, fast forward, Nashville's now the #1 city, and people are traveling all across the globe for a Bachelorette weekend. So they've turned into these very big events that require extra help and require services and companies to help them plan. So that was really the pivotal moment. So in 2013, started planning Bachelorette parties. I did it for about 2.5 years while working my corporate job. So I was grinding. I was working 7 to 4 at my corporate job. I was going to networking events. I was staying up until 1 or 2 in the morning and doing it all over day in and day out. And then in 2015, thankfully, business had been going well enough. I was able to quit my corporate job and do it full time. So we're approaching that decade mark of being a full-time entrepreneur, which is just like crazy to me that I've been doing it for this long. But I will say those are really some of those key moments that I just finally like went for it and was like, and I always tell people, you'll come to a place where you can't do both. You can do both for a while, but then something will have to give and you'll know when it's time to quit. Also be smart about it. This is just a side note. So I also saved up for 6 months. So I had a nest egg. So I did not just quit my job one day, go in and say, woohoo, let's go. You also need to know your season, your market really well. I will say one of the things I did not realize, I didn't know well enough about my business was Nashville kind of really dies down December, January, and February. So being a corporate worker, you're used to that 2 weeks paycheck. December rolled around and I was like, okay, we don't really have anything coming in this month. January I started getting a little nervous. So those are just some things to like really do before you go out on your own. You need to know your business inside and out, have some savings so that you're not fully dependent on your business and putting that extra stress and pressure on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hit on a great time to start something like that in Nashville. I mean, if anybody's listening, obviously, that it's in the Nashville area, and you go downtown any day, any weekend, anytime, it could be 11 a.m., it could be midnight. You're going to see a bachelorette party. You're going to see a wedding. It has become that it city, which as somebody who's a native here is great to see. And there's something for everybody here in Nashville. So definitely a need for what you offer, for your services, for what you can bring. And so kind of switching topics to specifically about the team that you mentioned. So in a question I asked you before, you said that you struggled with growing your team and learning to let go and let them essentially do their jobs, essentially just delegating workouts. So why do you think it's so important for entrepreneurs and business owners to learn how to do that and learn how to delegate?
Yeah, well, you're only one person. And so you can only accomplish so much within a 24-hour period. And so if you really want your business to grow and to scale, you've got to get the right people in the right seats doing what they do really well. And yes, I might be able to run social media, but that is not my expertise. So we hired that out. We have a really great team member who runs our social media, and that's what she does. That's literally her only job, is to tell us what to create, what to do, and pull things away from there. I will say a big challenge for me. So obviously I'm a planner. I'm a type A person. And so I like things done a certain way. And so in the beginning, especially if your business is your first time that you're an entrepreneur, it feels like your baby. And so you want to hold it close. You want to keep it very close to your chest, but you can't grow that way with closed hands. And so I always try to have an open hand policy where I allow other people to come in, because oftentimes your blind spots, your other team members and people, your advisors, they can see those blind spots for you. And so starting out, Daisy, she's been with me since 2016. She now runs her own events. She's absolutely a spectacular, not only just human individual, but she kills events. She actually ran an event a few weeks ago for us while I was out of town. And that's the other thing. So my team is still working and operating. And I was on a girls' weekend in Knoxville having a great time. And some feedback that one of the vendors gave me was Daisy ran things exactly the way that you did. She greeted us. She stepped up and did all the things that we did. And so finding people that are just as invested in your business as you are is literally transformational.
For sure. And that's one of the hard things, is figuring out how you can find those people. And they're far and few between, for sure. And speaking about things that have been difficult, things that are hard, what have been some of the hardest moments or some of the hardest seasons in this journey of starting, launching, and scaling this business?
Yeah, so obviously the early days were really hard because I was just naive. I just didn't know as much, but what you have to do is you really have to surround yourself with people who know more than you. So get advisors, read, take classes. Like, I'm always advocating, like, especially as entrepreneurs, but as humans, we should constantly be learning. Like, I should not just be like, I've made it, this is where I am. Like, especially in the event planning industry, it's evolving, it's changing. And so I want to learn what trends are happening. So staying on top of that is key. And then I will just say, like, find a business advisor. I mean, get a financial advisor, somebody to get a banker, like get people on your team that can support you and help you manage your business really well. We've done a lot of hiring and we've had some really great people. And we've also, unfortunately, had to let some people go that weren't great fits. And that is part of the business. And it's really hard. We recently had to let someone go about at the end of last year. But here's the thing is we literally got somebody who was made for that position in January. And we brought our first male to the team, which was really exciting. He's almost been here 90 days. And I can tell you, he has run circles around what that other person was doing because they were not in the right seat, in the right role. And so what they're doing now is so great for them, but it's a really hard conversation to have when you have to let people go. So being the CEO, you've got to constantly be learning. You've got to know that the right people are in the seat to make hard decisions, and then you've got to constantly be bettering yourself.
For sure. And in those early days, did you ever think, is this worth it? Is this, going to play out? Do I need to quit and go back to that corporate job? Did that ever cross your mind? And if it did, what kept you going to get you to the point where you're at today?
Yeah, I would say there are two pivotal moments where I wanted to quit. So about a year and a half in, I was going full time. Like I said, the beginning stages were really off. I didn't know my business that well. And so basically December to March is kind of slow for us. And so we didn't have more money coming in. So cash flow got really tight. And so I started applying for other jobs. I got a little nervous. Literally to this day, I've never heard from any of those jobs to this day. And then about 3 years in, I got a little nervous again. There was a lot of transition happening. We were growing very quickly. And sometimes that scheduled like 2-week paycheck sounds really great. But anyways, it didn't. Once again, I think I applied to a couple roles and nothing worked out. I will say what keeps me going and what keeps me focused is my faith. Like I know that this is what I was called to do. And so we are called to serve our clients, and we serve our clients really well. We also do it with excellence. And so we're really focused and we are all in for our clients, and my clients keep me going every single day. Like the ideas that they have, the creativity, the events, and the fact that we get to come and bring joy there, that really keeps me motivated. I will also say, like I did in the early days, take on some part-time work too. And there's no shame in that. So I always tell people, I love kids. And so I've always babysat since I was 11 years old, but I would babysit on the side just to keep some cash flowing personally so that I could go out to dinner with my friends, or I could do something and it didn't feel, as stressful. And also like you have to learn to say no. There was about a year and a half span where I got very focused on my business, and I allowed myself to have one fun thing a month. So I could go to one dinner, one birthday party, one whatever. And so I got really focused, and you've got to hone in and you've got to figure out, is this worth it? Do I really want to do this? And if so, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this happen, because I didn't have a plan B, John. There was no backup plan. There was we had to make this work. So I think also for me, that was the push. Like, we are going to have to figure this out. Pray for a lot of wisdom, put really smart people around me, and make it happen.
I love that. I love those stories for sure. And looking back on, I guess, 12 years, really, was there a mistake that taught you a lesson that you still use to this day?
Yes. One being early on, I did a wedding for a friend. And so actually a colleague, when I was still at my corporate job. We didn't do a contract because we were buddies and friends. And so, yeah, you already know where this is going. That kind of burnt me. And so anyways, like, now every single person gets a contract. I even planned my cousin's wedding, and probably 4 years ago, she got a contract, she got an invoice. And so, so that's something that definitely I tell everyone, like, everybody gets a contract. It doesn't matter who it is. That's part of business. So that was a big lesson. And then, trying to think of something else that we've really carried through. Yeah, I think just like knowing when someone's a good fit on our team. I also am very transparent with my team. I try to, once again, serve with that open hand policy. So when we bring new people in, I will also ask my team members, like, for feedback. So like, what are your thoughts? How is your interaction with this person? Because obviously people act differently when they're with you versus with their other colleagues. And so my team knows we have an open door policy. They can tell me constructive feedback. And so they're like, okay, so this is what's happening, or this event. Actually, after every single event, we do a form and we say what went well and what could have gone better. And so they see things throughout the event that I don't see. And so we report all of it and do an external report and present that back to our clients. So here's what we saw internally from our team in ways that we could do better. And we just were in Boston actually last week doing an event that we had done here in Nashville. And our client actually took some of that feedback and they implemented it into the next event to make it go better.
For sure. I think feedback is so important, especially with a team and building the culture. It sounds like the culture is transparent, it's open, which I've seen that being the best way to build a culture around a business, especially when it comes to working with people. You made a good point. People are going to act differently when they're around different company due to, so many variables that you could list out on multiple sheets of paper. You never know what it could be. So that's great. And speaking of things that are going on behind the scenes, and you're talking about the culture, what are some things that people don't particularly see behind the scenes of your business? It could be anything, but what are some behind the scenes things that people don't typically see?
Yeah, I think all of the prep work that goes into the event, people always see these beautiful pictures and they see the Pinterest boards, but they do not see the setup that really goes into it. We spend on even just a smaller event, so like say a 3-hour event, we're spending 30 to 50 hours of prep time leading up. So meetings, site visits, meeting with the vendors, like building out the timeline, the layouts, all of that. And then obviously we're on site for the day of the event. And then there's the retrospective. So we're providing our client with the recap. We're talking about what worked, what didn't go well, if there are any outstanding invoices to wrap up. So the process, I think people see this one day, this one moment, this one event, but they don't see all of the behind the scenes work that goes into it. And also the lugging in of the boxes and the tearing down and the setting up. And so I always tell people, if you're thinking about getting into event planning, you really need to shadow and work with some people to just see if you actually like it. Because yes, the creative process is great and the event itself is wonderful, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that people don't see.
Absolutely. And then that actually lays perfectly into my next segment, talking about things that have gone right, your wins, what's worked, what hasn't. So if somebody did want to get into the space and particularly get into event planning and whatnot, what advice would you give them that other people in the space may not just give away? Like, what is some raw advice that somebody could take and say, wow, that is valuable, I could use that, where other people just aren't giving them that same advice?
Yeah, so I actually sat down with a 23-year-old last week, and she's thinking about getting into event planning. And so one of the biggest things I told her, and I wish somebody had told me this early on, is whatever role that you're interviewing for, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So you need to go in and have a list. So I actually had her make a list of like, think about the best boss that you've had. What are the characteristics that person had? And that's what you need to be looking for. What is the best work environment? And then let's do the opposite. Who's the worst boss that you've ever had? Or what are some qualities or things that you didn't like there? And think about your needs, because your needs need to match up for that, because there is nothing worse, and I can tell you, than working a job that you hate. Towards the end of my corporate career, after I'd gotten a glimpse of like how wonderful like living out your passion day in and day out is, the last probably 6 months of my corporate career, I cried every single day. Like I was absolutely miserable. But I knew I had to stick it out until I got that nest egg, until I had hit some benchmarks. And so I did what I had to do. But you don't want to be in that place. Like if you can avoid it at all cost. So you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And so really take that into account. I will also say I'm really transparent. People ask me like, how much money did you have in your nest egg? Like, how much money do you make now? Like, what do your events run? Like, I think being transparent, and I love to share knowledge with people. Like, I am a connector. And so even that 23-year-old I just met with, I actually connected her with somebody who's 25 and closer to her age. And so I said, They're both actually named Abby. So I was like, Abby's, y'all need to get
Oh,
together.
there you go.
Yeah. I was like, y'all get together and y'all talk about what's fun and hip in Nashville right now, because I'm not in that stage anymore, you know?
Hmm.
So I think being able to connect people is huge. But yeah, I think those are some things that are just like really important in those early stages, just being transparent, helping people, connecting them. And even if it's not with me, like they may not be a good fit for my business, but here's some other event planners, and always go and work for people before you like fully dive in. So if you can shadow or do something like that,
For
is
sure.
really.
I think, yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head, because there's often times, even when in jobs, and even when I work with my own clients, it's like, okay, am I a good fit for you? Or are you a good fit for me? And do you cross off all the boxes that I would like to for somebody to work with, whether it's purely personality, whether it is business success, those specific things. It goes both ways in every single transaction, whether it's a job or working business to business or B2C, whatever it might be. I think that is something that is very important, especially like you said in the event space, because of how hands-on
Yeah.
somebody is. And my wife and I, we got married back in August, and we had planners and things, and the involvement within planning something like a wedding. The amount of detail and the amount of attention that goes towards that is great. And you want to find somebody that matches our energy. We had a photographer that we love. I mean, we just adore her. She did a fantastic job, and she was a perfect fit for us. And so I agree. I think that's fantastic. And kind of looking back a little bit, what was something along the journey that finally clicked for you? Whether it was a process, whether it was a mindset, what was something that clicked for you and kind of changed the trajectory of where your business was heading?
Yeah, I think there are probably two things. One is definitely that delegation, when I finally was like, I have got to get my hands out of everything, and I've got to put the people, I've got to trust them, and I've got to let them do their jobs. So that was a really big one for me. And I would say that probably happened in 2019. So it was still a decent chunk into the business.
Hmm.
But 2019, I feel like I really got serious about like, I can't do all of this. So I will say that is definitely a piece of the puzzle. And then when we got really serious about our ideal client, so building out who that is, what they were, what they did, what they look like, how all that works, and how that fits with us. And also, like, I'll go to the team sometime and be like, hey, we've got this inquiry and I think it's a good fit, but like, what do you guys think about this? And so really honing in on, is it a good fit for us? Because as you mentioned, like, we're working with people from a minimum of 3 months up to 18 months usually at a time. And so that's a long time, day in and
Hmm.
day out, to be talking with people. So making sure that we are attracting our ideal client. When I got really serious about that, we literally are so aligned in our clients right now. Like over the past, I would say 5 years, like we are spot on with our clients. And so it makes their experience better because we literally are obsessed with them and we love them and want to talk with them and hang
Hmm.
out with them. And then it makes great for our team too, because it's like, oh yes. So they're a really good fit. So I think those two things were really pivotal in our business.
For sure. And kind of going down a little bit more of a personal route, what's been either, let's say, like a daily habit or maybe a mindset shift or a tool that's changed how you particularly worked along your journey?
Yeah. Two things. Number one, I start my day with Jesus every single day. So I do my quiet time and have my devotional. My husband will actually, if I've not done it, he'll be like, have you had your quiet time today? So he will.
He knows what happens when you don't. I get it. Yeah.
So it is for everyone's betterment that I have a quiet time in the morning. That really grounds me and centers me. And that is like the crutch of our business. We also start every single event with prayer. So whether our
Mm.
clients know it or not, that is something that is a non-negotiable for us, because we need the wisdom and the problem solving. We need the skills, because every single event has something that goes wrong. We just don't know what it's going to be. And so we've got to be on our A game ready to do that. And then I will say, secondly, setting really good boundaries. Number one, saying no. So I can't be everywhere and I can't do everything. So I had to zoom out personally and look at my schedule from a monthly perspective. And so this week might be really busy, but I need to make sure I'm building in rest. So I really try to take my Sabbath. So Sundays, I try to take the day off, no work, not doing
Hmm.
anything. So that's really important. And then also like working business hours. I mean, there are times that I definitely work over, like it's just the nature of especially when we're in busy season. But I try to be very mindful to set that example, not only for myself, but for my team, because I don't want them working crazy hours. They have families, they have
Right.
lives, they have things that they need to do. So I try to really lead by example and really set that time. And then also getting married almost 2 years ago was a
Mm.
big pivot for me because for almost a decade I'd been running my business by myself, doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And so having someone else come into the picture that I really want to spend time with. I love my husband. I want to hang out with him. So that really helped me set, boundaries and make time because I could sit in my office literally almost 12 hours, 14 hours a day and still have work to do. Like that's just the nature
Yeah.
of what we do. There's always something to be done, but you really have to set those boundaries. So I think those things were really important for me personally.
For for sure, and talking about time and talking about hours you spend and the time that you're intentionally putting into this. Looking back, how would you measure success now versus when you started? Because I can imagine those might be two different things.
Yeah. So early on, I think success looked like just booking clients because that was the cash flow we needed to kind of keep going. And also just the confidence. Early on, you're like, okay, I'm doing this, but like until I actually book this client and get this money and get this contract signed, like, yeah, does anybody really believe in me and can I do
Mm.
this? And so I think success early on was that. And then one thing we always did was early on in the days, every 5 events, I would just bump my prices up because I probably was not priced. Well, I know I wasn't priced correctly. And so just every 5 events, that gave me the boost to like charge a little more until I could really get into the space of that we were accurately priced. So early on, yeah, it was just booking. And I will say now, I think the freedom of my time. So I take meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we operate out of Calendly. So
Mm.
I usually take meetings those days only. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. I'm meeting with a client tonight at 5:30 p.m., but those are my meeting days because I need time to get everything else done. Monday's usually my CEO day, so I'm doing admin. I'm catching up from the weekend. Fridays, oftentimes we're prepping for an event that weekend, or we may have an event on Friday. So I
Hmm.
really need Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to sit down and get the actual work done and then really meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Um, so I think those times just being like freedom with my time and also being able to say no. Like it is, we don't have to say no that often, but like when I know it's not a right fit for us, that I can say no because it's not going to hurt our cash flow. It's not going to hurt our bottom line. And that's okay because I don't want to put myself or my team in a position that is not going to set us up for success.
Right, and that you hit on so many good points because looking at a schedule, a lot of people look at a schedule like, oh my gosh, I'm locked in. This is what I have to do.
Mhm.
But if you, like you say, you take meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that actually frees up time. Think about it from the glass half full perspective, and it allows you to set boundaries for areas where, you're not taking calls all over the week. You have specific times, and that will ultimately free you up more to do other things when you need to. That I think is a big lesson that, calendars aren't a jail. It's actually a way for you to get more done and have intentionality with your work. I think that's huge. And I want to talk specifically about your industry and the event space as a whole. What would you say is one of the biggest myths about the event planning space?
I will say a big myth is probably like, yeah, that we are just kind of like out having fun creating all of these things, but on the back end, there's so many details. As you mentioned with your wedding, like you're touching base with your clients. Like it is a very structured and detailed, or it has to be for it to flow and to work effectively. So we go through 4 stages with our clients. And so the first one I always say, shoot for the moon, like literally tell me if money was not an object, what would you want your event to look like? And then stage 2, we're going to match your ideas and your dreams with reality because everybody's got a budget, whether they say they don't. And so you've got to have these processes in place to make sure that everything is flowing and that no boxes are unchecked. So that's why we have such strict processes in place to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that it's a great experience. Because when you have, kind of going back to what you said, that those parameters, the processes that we follow actually make it a better experience for our clients because they're not so overwhelmed. We only try to give them 3 to 5 homework items per month so that they're not like, oh my gosh, this checklist of 50 things has to get done. That's really overwhelming. But when I tell you, hey, you just have 3 to 5 things this month that need to get done. So I think the myth that like event planners are just out here enjoying themselves and being creative, that is true. But there's also a lot of process and hard work behind the scenes. And I will say like that events have to be super expensive to be done really well. I think we operate on lots of different budgets. So yes, we have really, really high end luxury clients, but we also have clients that are nonprofits and they just don't have the budgets. And so we make it work. And so one of the things I always tell every single client, whether they book us or not, is to pick 3 things that matter to you. So about this event, what are the 3 things that are the most important? That's where we're going to put our budget because everything else is not going to matter. So if it's food, if it's the music, if it's the venue, like those are the 3 things we're going to focus on. And the florals, we're not going to worry about. Obviously, they're still going to be beautiful because let's be honest, I'm not putting anything ugly out there.
Right.
But it's still going to be beautiful, but we're not going to select the most expensive florals if that's something that's not important to you. So I really think you just have to sit down and figure out what's important to you, and do your homework and then come together. And then that's what we focus on. So you can do an event at every different type of budget. And so you just got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's a fantastic answer. I think it's really good. And what would you say is the one thing that you particularly wish more people actually knew about the journey of entrepreneurship and starting a business?
It is challenging. So it is really tough. And you have got to know that this is what you want to do, and be very passionate about it. Because especially in the early days, you're going to have early mornings, late nights. You're going to be working a lot and you're going to have to miss out. There are times that I had to miss friends' birthday parties. I had to do this. But now that we're at this place where we are in our business and in the journey, I can show up for literally everything. But there were sacrifices that had to be made. And so I think letting people know, like, that's what's behind the curtain, is that you do have to, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you've really got to figure out where your boundaries are and what you really want out of this business, and then work really hard to make it happen.
And to follow that up, so I think that's one thing that a lot of people feel guilty about. They feel guilty about saying no to, maybe it's a birthday party, maybe it's going to the bar on Friday night with your friends, maybe it's, something like that. How does somebody overcome that and, make it, it's not personal at all. It's not like that. How would somebody overcome feeling like, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my friend because of this business that I want to launch in the future that I want to have? How can somebody overcome those feelings?
Yeah. And I think the truth is you may lose them. And so you have to decide. You've got to be really decisive and be like, am I going all in my business no matter what? Or do I care more about these friends and these relationships? Because I will tell you, you're going to lose some of them. The people that can't see the vision, that can't go with you. One of my mentors always says, like, your life is going to have a lot of chapters and involve a lot of people, but not every single person is going to be in every single chapter. And so some chapters of life close, and it's bittersweet because they've been with you for so long, but then they can't go with you into the next chapter. That season of life where I can only attend one thing a month, I lost a group of friends because they were very concerned about going out and having a good time and traveling. And I couldn't do that. I was not only focused on my business, but John, I was focused on getting out of debt. So those two, going out and traveling and getting out of debt, did not align. One of my I didn't get to go to her wedding in Florida, and I had to call her and tell her, like, hey, I can't come because this isn't in the budget. And I remember her response, and she was like, Sarah, like, I appreciate you calling so much. And she was like, but I know you want here. Like, who wouldn't want to come to Florida to a wedding, And so she was the most understanding. But then I had an exact same thing, honestly, going to Florida again for a 30th birthday party. And that friend mishandled the situation. She was absolutely livid that I couldn't go. And so I want to be very honest that, like, yeah, when you set these boundaries, not everyone is going to appreciate your boundaries. And so that's why you have to know within yourself and the people that really matter. So my family, like I said, hey, I can't come home for every single thing. And so that was an adjustment because I had been doing that for a lot of years. And then the friends that really matter, they're still in my life today. And now I get to celebrate with them. Back then, when we could probably only go eat at like Applebee's, now we can go and celebrate. Now we can go eat a steak dinner and celebrate. So those people that really matter and understand will be there along the journey. But yeah, it's tough, like losing friendships and potentially losing other things when you really set those boundaries for yourself. But when you're laser sharp on what you want and what your mission is in life, and serving your clients really well, like you can't go wrong. And I promise it will work out. There are times that it feels like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever going to get there? But when consistency is key, when you keep showing up, when you keep doing the right thing, when you keep serving your clients well, and you keep bettering yourself in your business, like it's a no-brainer. It's going to work out.
For sure. Yeah. The short-term gratification versus the long-term rewards of all the fruit that you put in the beginning. It's a balance. It's trying to figure that out. And what would you say, and what do you hope people take away from your specific journey, your specific story?
Yeah, I hope that people are encouraged. I hope they are also like, wow, this lady came on here and shared like, wow, she lost friends. Like she didn't have money at times. Like I hope that they are encouraged to know that there's nothing different about me, that they can do it too. And so you just have to work hard. You have to believe in yourself and you have to get very clear in your vision. But like, I hope it's so encouraging to everyone. And I hope people take nuggets of wisdom. Like my pain, I hope it's your gain. So I hope that you learn to learn your business inside and out and know the markets or the downtrends in your business. I hope you have your cash flow in order before you quit your corporate job. So learn from me. So yeah, I hope they're encouraged and I hope they learn some nuggets.
Absolutely. I think they will. And I always ask my guests this question. If you could leave one piece of advice for the next entrepreneur that I interview, what would it be? And you answered specifically, don't listen to the naysayers, do the hard work, network, and believe in yourself. Why do you think those three things, those four things are so important, especially in this age of entrepreneurship in 2025?
Yeah, so the first one, naysayers, if I'd listened to people who said no one's going to pay me to plan the bachelorette party, my business would have never gotten off the ground because I would have said these people are the experts and they know, but I knew within myself that there was something there. So you can't listen to people. People are just, not everyone sees the vision and that's okay. You've got to believe in yourself because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to. And you've got to just be very clear on your goals and where you're going. Let's see, what were my other ones? Network. Oh my gosh, network. You have got to get out there and share your business card with people. You've got to make yourself known. You've got to tell people your business name. You really need to get plugged into. I'm always an advocate of, I try to network once a week. And so if you meet 5 people in each networking event, if you network 52 weeks out of the year, I mean, you've made so many connections. But even if you can't do that, I just talked to a friend and she was like, that's not realistic for me. I said, go once a month. That's 12 touch points a year that you're meeting new people. That's like 60 people a year that you're meeting that don't know about your business and what you're doing. But the key to networking is the follow-up. So when you get those business cards, you have got to follow up with people. So I try to, within a day or two of getting a business card, following up with them and just sending like, hey, it was so great to meet you. Here's my Calendly link. I'd love for us to connect via Zoom. You don't always have to go to coffees because one thing I've learned is my time is very precious. And so a lot of times I'll just do a call or a Zoom because I don't have time to drive across town everywhere. Or I can say, hey, on this day, I can meet for coffee. But you've got to follow up with people, be intentional, and really grow those relationships. That's just like so important. And that is such a game changer in my business because I was hustling in the beginning. I was literally probably at 4 to 5 networking events in the beginning.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I was out there. I was making sure. But once again, when you don't have a backup plan, like this has to work. So I've got to meet all these people because I've got to figure this out. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's just so important to do that. And then hard work. I mean, that's just a non-negotiable. Like you've got to work hard on your craft. You've got to continue getting better. And just being honest, like there's going to be early nights, late mornings, and everything in between. But you can do this, but you're going to have to work really hard.
For sure. For sure. No, all those things are so important for anybody. If you're a year in, a week in, or 10 years in, naysayers, hard work, networking, believing in yourself. Absolutely. And diving into where people can find you. So where can people find you? Where can people find your business and follow you and learn about what Social Bliss Events has to offer?
Yeah, so they can go to our website. So socialbliss-events.com. I'm sure it'll be in the notes and everywhere else that you'll share. And if they're interested in an event, we have a contact page that they fill out that form. And then we send you a Calendly link, and then you'll book on a Tuesday or Thursday and we'll chat.
There you go.
We've got it pretty streamlined. And then if they want to connect social media, it's just at Social Bliss Events on Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. And then my personal one is still my maiden name, but Sarah Charlotte Patton as well. So they can connect with me there. I like to share a lot of tips, business tips, entrepreneurial tips, and things that have just kept me going over the journey.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully people reach out. The passion just absolutely just flows out of you. I could tell the motivation is great. And so if you're looking for anybody in this space that, needs, you have a wedding, you have an event coming up, Sarah's the person for you. 100%. I mean, she even laid out how many hours she'll put into this. She knows exactly what you need. And so make sure to reach out. Well, that concludes this episode today. If you enjoyed it, make sure to share it with somebody who can gain some helpful tips if they're in the event space or not in the event space. It doesn't matter. You can learn from every entrepreneur, no matter the industry. And also make sure to check out all of the socials that'll be in the notes as well. For the Slice podcast, we're going to be diving up and chopping up some clips, some of the best moments, so that you can get that. And make sure to, like I said, share this with a friend. Well, Sarah, I loved having you on. Thank you so much. And hopefully maybe down the line have you on again and learn more about where Social Bliss Events is headed.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's been a pleasure.